Hello and welcome to episode 30 of the Turn 4 podcast. I am your host, Dan Maldonado. If this is your first time listening, welcome. If you've been a regular listener, welcome back and thank you. This podcast comes from two lifelong fans of IndyCar and motorsports. We are not insiders. Before we start, let me introduce you to my co-host, Tim Reiner. Hey, Timmy.
Hello, Dan. How are you?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
You're excited about episode 30.
I am well, it's another milestone, right? So get to 30, get to 40, get to 50, get to 75.
I can't believe it's 30. That's a lot.
Yeah, we've done good. Right? 7 was the max, right? That we read was most people don't make it past episode 7.
Yeah.
The podcast. So good job. We crushed that.
Yeah, we're almost what? Yeah, we're
more than
3 times that.
Yeah.
More than 3 times, 4 times.
Yeah.
Whatever it is.
Did you have a nice weekend, Tim?
Yeah, it was good. It was a nice weekend. Spent some time on the lake, spent some time doing chores, but it was good. I didn't have as good a weekend as you did, of course, because you were at the race.
Of course, I did. I had a really nice weekend. And there's nothing like being surrounded by 65,000 other people, all with common interests. And that interest being IndyCar racing, the Indy Grand Prix, the GMR Grand Prix at Indianapolis Motor Speedway Road Course. It's got quite the name on it. But I had a nice weekend despite the ever-changing weather conditions. But I guess I'm from the Midwest, so these things do not generally come as a surprise to me. But, as far as strategy and coming to as a surprise to these teams, many of these teams based in the Midwest, it came as a surprise to them because a lot of it was seat of their pants and dart throwing or, flip a coin or just whatever happened out there happened.
So there were 65,000 people there?
There was. So I saw something from Nathan Brown on Twitter that suggested that it was slightly better than the 2019 event. And that's obviously relevant because that's the last non-COVID year. So shows great recovery. It shows that people are interested in consuming their motorsports in person again. And it was good. It was really nice to be out there. It was really nice to be out there.
Then I watched it on TV. It didn't look like 65,000, but that place is so huge and so mammoth. We've talked about how many people it actually holds. So you couldn't tell that there was that many people there, but that's good to hear.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I know I put a lot of this on Twitter and Instagram and all that stuff, but I just want to kind of reiterate a few remarks here, if you will indulge. Crowd was good. Like I said, I saw something that was, like I said, slightly up on 2019. Sponsor activation, though, which I really want to talk about. They were calling it the Midway. I've never really seen a sign in that section there in the infield at Indianapolis called the Midway. And I thought
is that by the museum?
No. So
it's not.
Would be east of the pagoda and coming a little bit north.
Okay. All right.
Yep. So really great sponsor activation there. It was interesting because there was even a Red Bull identified utility vehicle there, kind of like a mobile DJ booth, so to speak.
I saw that in the pictures. Cool. Yeah, that looked
cool. Carvana, of course, had a really, really big presence there. They were allowing people to win diecast. It was like a little game thing there. Firestone, you saw that Firestone IndyCar, the current IndyCar, but kind of reminded us of the old Scott Pruitt Lola, right? When Firestone came back to IndyCar racing. So it was really great to see. It's really
that's cool. That is really good to hear. I love the Firestone car, by the way. That's really cool. And I was able to find an old picture on the internet that I put out on our Twitter feed. But I saw something else, and I thought you had a picture of it. And I think, can you explain the giant potato? Right? Am I right? Was there a potato?
Yes. So this gigantic potato. I'm glad you picked that out because I actually do have something to talk about with the giant potato. 3 words bring us the giant potato. Sting Ray Robb. He's an Indy Lights driver on the Andretti Autosport team. He is from Boise, Idaho, and part of his partnership package I saw on his website today is the Big Idaho Potato. So
Oh
first
my
of all, I want to
goodness.
get a shout out to Mr. Evan Dawson, because he did mention Stingray Rob on our Twitter a couple of weeks ago. So
Mhm.
here's an opportunity for us to mention Stingray's name as well as Evan. So thanks for the listen on that one. But so do you know, I do have a little trivia for you,
It's
Dan.
obviously not real.
It's not.
It's it can there's no way it's as big as a tractor trailer.
It's not. So hey, here's the deal. So it says
That would feed a lot of people.
it would. In fact, do you know how many servings of mashed potatoes you'd get from a 4-ton potato?
How many servings of mashed potatoes from a 4-ton potato? Now, 1 ton
It's a
is
4-ton
2,000
potato.
pounds, right?
Yeah.
So this
So
is an 8,000
8,000
pound.
pound potato.
Oh my goodness, 8,000. Oh my, 100,000. I have no idea.
Let's save all the listeners the math going on inside your head right now. 20,217 servings mashed potato.
Oh, okay. That's a
Didn't you
lot of servings of potatoes, man.
lot of
If you want
servings
to
of
have
potatoes.
Thanksgiving dinner or something and just
Yeah.
serve out potatoes, that's what you would do.
Yes, you would. So
Can you go inside that potato?
nope. No, it was on the bed of the truck. So it actually has a really great story behind it, because there's a charity piece to this thing as well. They're calling it, quote, the big helping, meaningful and personal. During its 6-month tour this summer, the truck will identify charities in many of the markets it visits and offer a, quote, big helping based on the organization's specific needs. The IPC will work with selected charity to create an event to help raise awareness, funds, food, and all three for the nonprofit. So it is part of the partnership package of Stingray Rob, but it's also
That's his real
something
name.
fun, and it actually gives away. I think it is his real name, because I looked it up. I obviously had to research this potato, but there was a picture. There was a standee there of Stingray Rob. I do have a picture of me, of course, because I like my selfies, and I did not post that on Twitter. I also have a selfie with I also have a selfie with a Will Power stand up as well.
Interesting.
So,
oh, I'm glad it's for a good cause, because I was really confused when I was scrolling through Instagram and looking at your pictures that you were taking. I was like, oh, that's interesting. Is that really what I think it is? And
yep,
you've confirmed. So thank you.
Yep, big potato.
Your mission was successful on that front. Can I mention something else?
For sure.
So if for all the listeners that don't watch, Dan does not have his bike behind him again in this episode. And it tells me one thing. It tells me one thing. Dan actually rides his bike.
I do.
Mine just sits here on the wall, and that's it. So kudos to Dan for changing up his scenery, and the bike leaves because he's actually out riding it. So yeah, I just have to mention that for everybody that doesn't watch.
I think that the fat bike, because I don't do that much riding on the fat bike in the spring, summertime, although I do ride it. We'll probably go there. I think it'll look cool there, but we'll see.
It will. We'll see.
That's the plan, though. Is the fat bike will go there.
Yeah. Okay. We'll put the fat tire bike up there, and let's see what that looks like. I'm excited to see it, because right now it's just the bike riser rack sitting there with no bike on it.
Yeah. So I have a few other observations I'd like to get to before we get into the team by team on this thing. I sat in the turn 5-6 complex, which was a general admission mound. I made friends, of course. Right? You would.
Of course you do. Less. That's what you do when you're out there.
Yeah.
You had your chair, right? Did that?
Of course I did. Yeah.
Some conversations too.
And I left it out there a couple of times too. Just left it sitting too. So
okay.
So we could advertise.
If you don't know, Dan's got a chair that says Turn 4 Podcast on it. So if you're ever at an event and you see somebody sitting in it, most likely Dan.
It's most likely me. Made friends with a guy and his dad. Was chatting with them there at the in the general admission area. I wanted, of course, to be on the mound in turn 1, where all the action happens. Turn 1 on the road course, of course. But I parked in the infield, which put me inside turn 3 on the oval. God, I hope we're still keeping up with people here. I parked in turn 3 in the oval, but because of the threat of weather, and there were storms and wind and everything else, I didn't want to venture too far away from the car in case I needed to get back to the car in time. I did manage to sit on my umbrella as I sat back down after the national anthem. So I did break my umbrella. So that wasn't going to be any help at
You
all.
broke your umbrella.
Yeah, I sat in it.
Oh man, that's a bummer.
But it actually worked out for me because I did have to go back to the Jeep twice because of weather. So that was good because coming back from turn one would have never been there. Also, too, I want to say Sarah Fisher, who was driving the pace car, the Corvette pace car, which she'll also drive the pace car for the Indy 500.
I did see that.
She was not tenderfooting the Corvette on the opening pace laps. That turn 5-6 complex where I was sitting is really a chicane that puts you onto the Holman Boulevard. That's the back stretch, right? Very fast section going into there. She was on it. It was so cool to watch that too. And then somehow on the pace, on the parade laps, Dalton Kellett and Tatiana Calderon got strung out from the field and actually took it 3 wide down Holman Boulevard with Mario Andretti in the 2-seater, which I thought was great. Oh yeah, which I thought was great.
Goodness.
That was really fun. I did not see that on TV, but I saw that live. Also, final thing I'll say here is I never noticed on TV, because I have watched this race obviously a number of times since 2014. It really looks almost downhill coming off the straight into turn one, into the road course section. Almost looks like they're coming downhill into the infield, which is kind of interesting to me because that's the straight on the oval, right? So I really wouldn't think that there's much in the way of banking there. Yeah, but there's more banking than you would think. So where I was sitting right across from me, you could see the cars come off the straightaway into turn one, and you could see that it was a noticeable downhill from there. So yeah, I would assume it would have been a little more flat than that.
5-6 complex. That's going to the straightaway on the back straight there. Okay.
Yep.
I had to pull up the map to see where you were at.
Oh, there you go. Yep.
That's what I was looking at here on IndyCar.com. Very cool. You saw the spin then, right?
Dalton Kellett spun right in front of me.
Yeah. Totally. Yep. Yeah. Because he came through that and he was sitting in a precarious position with it being sort of wet and the other cars were coming through. And I was like, they need to go to yellow quicker than what they did. And they did. But yeah. Okay.
So this new digital flagging system, you know the name of it.
I don't know it off the top of my head, but yes, I know what you're talking about.
Flagging system. There was one to my right that I kept looking at more than the one to my left. I couldn't understand until I got home yesterday and watched the race in full on Peacock, but it was a local yellow for Dalton Kellett. As I was sitting there watching this sort of going on.
Yeah, I saw the yellow and then I saw the green there,
right?
Yeah.
So I was thinking, why are these guys coming through here with such a head of speed? Because, it's got to be a yellow flag. It's a yellow flag. I could see the yellow flag on my right-hand side, but it was because it was a local yellow. So they were kind of maybe a little tender through there, and then they would get right back on it because it was green just past where Dalton was off on the side. So that explains it, right? But then it did end up going full caution, and then they had to come through, put him on the flatbed. Fix those tire barriers a little bit, but
that's the EM Motorsport Group that does that. Yeah. I had to look it up.
Race, of course, started on wets. It was delayed despite IndyCar announcing they would be moving up the start of the event. It seemed
so I was out and about, and then I was like, "Oh, I'm going to miss the start because I had to do some things," and then I came back and I actually had recorded it. And I was like, oh, I got to watch the pre-show in order to see the start of the race because the start of the race is going to be at 3:06, they were saying. And then it ended up being delayed, as you just mentioned.
3:46 or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it was, which was kind of the scheduled time, is my understanding.
Right. Yep. And then it was a wet start. But this storm, I think, rolled in about an hour earlier than they had originally anticipated. And what that meant was that put a halt to the Indy Lights race. So they sort of halted the Indy Lights race so they could get the IndyCar race in. And then Indy Lights were going to come back out to the track after the conclusion of the IndyCar race. So
did you stick around then?
I did not.
You get out?
I did not. Okay. Yeah, I had to get out of there. So but and the weather was bad at that point. I spent the last 15 minutes of the race in the Jeep, listening to it on the radio, IMS radio network, and then watching it on the screen because I was parked right on one of the screens. So
Yeah.
and I was ready to go. It was cold. It was like a 24-degree drop in
Yeah, because I think
temperature.
your first post said it was super hot and
Yeah, it
humid,
was
right?
super
And
hot
then
and humid. Yeah.
yeah, the storm came through and
Yeah.
cooled it all off. Yeah.
Yeah, and then it was like 61 degrees or something, and it was windy and damp, and on and off rain and everything too. So yeah, I was ready to go. I had a great time. I enjoyed being out there. Absolutely would do it again. I had a great time. I really enjoyed myself, but the weather was just a drag. That really
Yeah.
was a drag.
So did you run into any drivers, owners, media folks, etc. while you were there?
I did not. I wanted to see Nathan Brown while I was out there. I had traded a couple of messages with him, but he's working, obviously. Duh.
Yeah.
Right.
Sure.
And I, but that would have been really fun. I think I saw Mike Lanigan, right? Of Ray Hall Lanigan.
Really?
Yeah. On his golf cart, so to speak, his trick golf cart. Had his name on the side of it, so I assumed that's who it was. I've never seen him before, or couldn't recall seeing him before. Elio was in the midway signing autographs in a sort of a pop-up there, Michael Shank pop-up. I also saw an Elio Castro Neves like souvenir tent, which I've never seen before for Elio. So that might be a non-Penske thing, right? Like if you're a Penske driver, Penske handles that because there was a Penske trailer there selling, driver stuff and Penske gear. Elio had his own tent. Pato O'Ward had his own tent as well.
So outside of the team tent, they had their own.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yep. Yeah. So Pato's got his own logo.
Were they busy?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Pato tent was actually busier than the Elio tent, which I was actually quite surprised.
He's young, new, hot shoe.
It's Indianapolis.
Yeah.
Right?
That doesn't surprise me too much.
Yeah.
Interesting. Very, very cool. Sounds like an awesome time.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. A lot of fun. Good to be there.
And then you could tell they were prepping for the 500 too. Could you tell a lot of stuff was kind of coming together?
No,
or not so much. It was
no.
Well, this was a snake pit put together.
It was right behind me, actually.
I was going to say, so that's got to be
up. The sign was up, but no stage. And I guess you're right. They were preparing because there was containers there, which probably, is what the stage is in.
Yeah.
But yeah, the snake pit signs are permanent.
Yeah.
So, that was.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Because it's individual letters on stakes, and they're huge. And then they got a big Coors Light sign right at the end of it.
Anything new at the complex between the oval turn 3 and 4? I know there was talk about putting a racing circuit in there at a school and all that. Is that still happening?
Yeah. So that's where I parked. I parked right outside that building. That building is complete as far as I can see.
Oh, really?
Yep. It's got its own parking lot around it. It's fenced in, white building, really nice. I mean, obviously, I thought that was going to be one of those driver school things like you did when you were in California a couple of weeks ago. But I think it's kind of a mixed purpose idea there.
Office complex.
So like conferences and different things like that. But it is complete. And I think there used to be like a small dirt track in that little spot there.
Okay. Yeah. I have one last question before we get to the rundown. Because did you run in or see the lady that had the willpower big head sign that she was doing her thing every time?
No, I wish I did, but no, I didn't.
You didn't see her. So they had her for qualifying. I saw her on, and I think I saw her at the race. Like she had this thing, and she was at Indy 500 practice several weeks ago with that same big blow up of Willpower's head. So
like a fat head of Willpower,
like a fat head of Willpower, like a cardboard cutout that was. You could tell it was creased in the center. So when she was traveling, she'd fold it down and then she'd open it up. And they put her on TV several times. So I wasn't sure if you ran into that lady because she's a huge Willpower fan.
Did not see her, but I bet you she had actual seats, not just GA.
No, she was on the grass every time.
She was
sitting in a camping chair like you.
Yeah. So she was. She's
no different than us. Except she had a big blow up.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for the Dan Maldonado one to show up. Someone on.
Wouldn't that be awesome?
That would be so cool.
Yeah, my big.
Maybe we got something in store for Indy.
Round face. My big Jackie Gleason face. That's why I have that Jackie Gleason picture over my shoulder. I love that.
All right, race results.
Hey,
Is that
who
what we're going?
won? Who won this race, Timmy?
I think it was Herta.
That's right.
Herta Mania 2.0.
Yes, it was. And what does Herta drive?
Honda.
And they needed this too, didn't they?
I totally needed this win.
Yep.
It came through in a
they totally
sloppy race when it comes to weather.
Absolutely. But I will tell you, I think this win was set up when Herta came in early to change from wet tires to the alternates, the red tires. He took the lead on lap 5, but not before he took off in a opposite lock, never seen in an IndyCar power slide on that second lap on the reds, which was just unbelievable. But Colton and his dad, Brian, were all over it with strategy. They really did a nice job. It was a great call on that one. Strategy or luck, let's call it strategy. But,
strategy and good car handling.
Oh yeah. Amazing car handling. Amazing car handling, but good for them. Team needed it. I think the Andretti team needed this. I think Honda needed this as well, because Chevy has had the better of Honda the whole this season so far, right? The first 4 races.
Yeah, they've had him. Yeah, they had him covered easily, except for Alex Palou. It's the only one they didn't have covered all first few races here.
Yeah, and I think in some ways, I think Palou kind of beat himself, but we'll get there.
I know, but I'm just saying, from a Chevy to Honda, it was always seemed it was, Chevy was dominant. You had Palou, and then you had Herta kind of mixed in. But I was excited to see him win. I was excited to see how it played out. Again, I think it was strategy. It was also obviously great car handling, but it was playing with the weather and doing the right thing at the right time. They almost got caught out, if you recall, when it got really wet and they were still on slicks, and the back of the field came in and put wets on. They came around the next time and put wets on and still got out in front of everybody, which really was a key move, I think, in the race as well, right? Because if you didn't do that, such as Pato Award and others didn't do that, Grosjean didn't do that, they were out there on slicks at the very end, they fell back in the field. So that was the second. There was kind of like 2 areas that really got hurt at the win there.
Yeah, I agree. 11th place for Alexander Rossi, who I'm calling Potty Mouth Rossi. He was rolling the dice all over the place, right? And he was very animated, and he was very saucy, so to speak, on the radio.
Potty mouth. I missed some of that.
And that's coming from me. So that's kind of, I realize it's hypocritical, but I do my best during the show, obviously, right? Because we're a G-rated show. But so Potty Mouth Rossi, we're blank that. We're not saving fuel, we're going for it, that kind of thing. But I think he's driving like a guy who wants to play spoiler. I don't know that he necessarily thinks he's gonna, make a run at this championship, which is sad, right? Because I think talent-wise, I think he's definitely there. But he is not driving, at least not how he looked like he was driving at the Indy GP that he was driving for, points and trying to climb up or whatever. I think he's just kind of playing spoiler there. 17th place, Roman Grosjean. I think this is kind of the surprise to me of the race. I would have, fully expected Grosjean to do better. But again, the weather was just gotten everybody's way on this thing. He had a penalty for full service during a closed pit. That pretty much put an end to his day. He ran well most of the day. I mean, especially early. He got a hip check from Jack Harvey, which was kind of funny to me, right? Certainly not because of the Graham incident from Barber. Certainly.
Well, I don't know. They might have been after him.
Right.
Who knows?
Or maybe, yeah. I mean, who knows? Devlin Di Francesco, 21st, still coming to grips with the conditions, weren't conducive. I mean, it's just still trying to figure out the big car. I think, the Andretti car being an Indy car, I think. And this was just not good for any of that. So I'm not hating on Devlin. I mean, he's a rookie, and he was very, very rookie on Saturday's race, getting up to speed there. But,
so you mentioned Rossi really not going for the championship anymore, right? So he said he's kind of out of that. So he's 15th, 81 points. He's a little ways back, right? But not a ton back at this point.
How many points behind?
He's what is that? 90, 89 points behind.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
he would have to have Palou, all three Penske's, Dixon, and O'Ward to have a really, really, really bad stretch coming up. They would
Yeah.
all have to have a really bad 500 because that's double points. They would have to have, a bad Detroit, a bad, whatever, they would all have to have several bad races over the next month.
Yeah,
for
I agree.
Alexander.
They
And
totally would.
Alexander would have to have an
Have to be
uncharacteristic,
brilliant. Yeah.
great, race finishes over the next several races.
Yeah, I just think after the 500 is when the points kind of sort of settle in, right? Because
Yeah.
the 500 is the double points, so anything can happen in that race, and after that, you kind of see where you're sitting for the rest of the year. So obviously, a huge long shot. And to your point, going for what he can get out of the car and where he can pull a victory out or do something on strategy, which he tried to do this past race. They went on those rain tires, and then what happened was it never really rained when the rain was like right there. It was raining on the front stretch, wasn't raining elsewhere, and they had to come in and pit, and they were way behind
and it really was right there. I think had that wind not been like, Wizard of Oz kind of wind, I mean, they probably would have gotten the rain that they expected that to come in, but it was just unbelievable how those conditions were changing constantly. The people sitting around me, you could see them all looking at the radar on the phone and and it was like none of that stuff ever came true. Right. I mean, none of that stuff ever came true.
You could see it on the telecast too. Like it was right there, but it wasn't coming, and then it was dry in sections. It was wet in others. And
it was dry where I was at right before I bailed, right, to go to the car on the last 15 minutes. It was dry where I was at. It was windy. It was kind of, sprinkling, so to speak. It was raining on pit road and on that front stretch and, into the oval turn one. It was raining. It wasn't like what I had.
That far away from where you were.
Right. And that's just so crazy.
Yeah, that's really bizarre.
So crazy.
Well, good for Team Andretti. Good for that whole organization that they pulled off the victory, and the rest of the drivers did all right, but not as good as you'd like them to do. Right. But yeah, good deal.
Second place goes to Simon Pagenaud. Here's another surprise for you, another Honda, right? The guy who won the first race on the road course in an IndyCar showed some prowess. I think Simon is good. I really do. I don't think for a second that he lost his ride because of a lack of talent or waning talent. I truly believe Roger Penske prefers a 3-car team. And I think that he was just odd man out. Simon's showing that Shank, I believe, is his team once Elio hangs up his helmet for good or decides to just do an Indy only program. So.
That's interesting, because you'd think Elio would be leading that team, but based on the results,
he's leading that team right now, like figuratively, but I think really Simon's the guy inside that team. The long-term strategy inside that team, I think.
Well, it's interesting with Simon. Like he's won the IMS Road Course race 3 times, which is interesting. I didn't realize it was that many, and he's finished in the top 6 or top 10 6 other times, including Saturday when he just did that. So he's got a really good record there. So, the other thing I thought was interesting is that Pagenaud and Will Power that you mentioned in the last show, who has the most wins at IMS, they account for 8 wins out of the 12 races that have been held there.
Isn't that crazy?
It is crazy to think about that.
Yeah.
And then the only other winners are Herta, who just won. You have Renas, who won last year, and then you have Dixon and Joseph Newgarden.
Yeah.
That's the only folks that have won on the road course there at IMS. Yeah. But they hold 8 out of the 12 races, those 2 drivers, which is interesting.
It's a great finish for Simon in second place, and very, very strong, has shown strong on this IMS road course in essentially 3 different cars, right? Because he started his career with Sam Schmidt.
Yep.
Right. Now Aaron McLaren, but he started his career with Sam Schmidt, won on this course with Sam Schmidt, won on this course in a Penske. And then now damn near won it yesterday, right? Second place.
Yeah.
From where? 20th?
Yeah, something like that.
In a Shank
way
car,
back.
Right?
Yeah, way back.
Yeah.
You're right. He did start 20th.
Yeah. So I mean, really, he he knows this track very, very well. So, Elio Castroneves, on the other hand, 14th place, started 19th, just one ahead of his teammate. Obviously the weather, the strategy just didn't fall the way Elio needed it to. And he couldn't really make way on this.
Yeah. He improved, right? He's up 5 positions, did well, but didn't do what his teammate did, but you look at his teammate's record there is amazing. So how could you ever count him out of the race if you go back and look at it historically, what he's done there? So good for Pagano to take 2nd place.
Yep. 3rd place, Power. What can I say? Patient Power again, right? Used his experience and patience to stay in the hunt. He did have some spirited on-track battles, including with his teammate, Joseph Newgarden, in the early stages of this race. As you point out, Power now leads the championship, 14 points over Palou, who had a miserable weekend, and McLaughlin and Newgarden, who
follow. Yep,
his
teammates follow,
and his teammates.
I know. Wins. At the start of the race, when he went down several spots, I was like, "Oh no, he's going to do something and throw away the race," and he didn't. He totally stayed together, raced his own race, and finished on the podium. Of course, he wanted to win, right? Yeah. And it was interesting when he qualified first, because he was your pole winner. And when he qualified first, he wasn't as excited as everybody anticipated him to be.
Right.
When he took off the helmet, he was very stoic. I'll call it stoic. And just like, yep, won the pole. Means we got everything out of the car. He goes with how close these cars are when it comes to time. And I believe the top 20 cars in practice 1, 2, and 3, or whatever one it was, they were within a second, the top 20 cars, which is amazing. And he goes, you have to hit every mark correctly in order to win the pole. And of course, have the right car for the day, because they were so close in this series where everybody's driving the same vehicle.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just unbelievable, right? And you're right. It was kind of unusual that he didn't have a big celebration like he normally has with that. But it's a different willpower this year for
it is totally
whatever reason. Yeah,
and I don't know if he was just exhausted and tired from hustling the car around the track, because it was warm, right? It was warm on qualification day, which would have been Friday, right?
Yep.
So on Friday it was super hot and muggy. And the thing that I've noticed is they've all gone to the air vent that goes to the helmet, right?
Yep.
But the one that used to sit on top of the aero screen is gone. Like,
that's
no longer around. So they must have figured something out with that hose that goes into the helmet, whether it's on the top, the side, or in the front. They've got all different arrangements for it, but they must have fixed that and ditched the vent that went over the top.
Yeah, they asked somebody, I can't remember who it was, within the last couple of weeks, why they prefer the front vent, which is the vent like closer to your mouth, versus the one that comes in the back of the helmet. And he had a great response to it. A very pragmatic response was, well, in case something happens to it, I can reach it.
Yeah, I can plug it back in, right?
Yeah.
So otherwise, if it's on the back of my head, I can't drive
you can't do
200 miles an hour and try to plug it back in. So you're without your air hose, and then you're sweating.
Yeah.
So overheating.
Honda had a great weekend with the first and second place finish here over the Penske and the Penske Chevys. Really, we saw a struggle here with winning drivers from this season. McLaughlin finishing 20th. He had a spin on his own on lap 67, which was really a strategy thing, right? Do we stay out? Do we come in? Do we stay out? Do we come in? And you could see they were talking to his strategist. Yeah. We were talking to a strategist, and you could see him, man. He was just like, I mean, he was like Rodney Dangerfield, right? He had his collar, he was sweating. You could tell that was tough for him. Mm-hmm. He got a penalty. He did pit when the pits were closed, which is really a drag. He did lead 5 laps earlier on. I want to put an aside here. So, I think McLaughlin will be good at the 500, and it's just one race, and it's crazy here with the weather. But I got to say this. I don't like the snap-on livery.
You don't like the car?
Nope.
Doesn't do anything for you?
Nope. I don't like that split livery for some reason. I think there's a way you could do that, and I just don't like the way they did this one.
Interesting. I didn't pay that close attention to it, but yeah, probably not my favorite either at the end of the day.
And while I'm at it, can I point something else out?
Mm-hmm.
We've not seen a Menards car.
We haven't, have we?
Mm-mm. So it makes me wonder if that sponsorship went away.
Potentially. Well, but John Menard is a huge IndyCar fan. So It would surprise me. It's got to come back, but it's not coming back for the 500.
I
That's
don't think
not.
so. No.
No.
Mm-mm.
They showed Will Powers. You see that livery for
Mm-mm.
the Indy
It's the
500?
shell one, the gold shell one. Is that what it is?
No. It's his Verizon, but it's like a brown
Oh,
paint in the
Powers.
front.
Yeah.
Brown paint in the
Multicolored.
front.
Yeah.
Yeah. Somebody asked on Twitter
Purple on the pods.
if it was done. Did you guys complete
Right.
it, or is there still more going on there? Because it was
Right.
kind of hodgepodge.
Right.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, McLaughlin, I thought in the wet he'd do really well.
Me too.
But again, if you haven't driven in the wet yet in those cars, you're gonna find some issues. And then if you don't put rain tires on, intermediates, whatever they are,
forget it. You got nothing.
it's like an ice skating rink, right?
Yep.
And that's what happened. He just got on the gas a little bit and it spun out from it. And
don't even need to a lot, right? I mean, he was just floating around out there.
But when you got 700-800 horsepower, you get on it a little bit, they're gonna spin really fast, especially in the wet. So
25th place, Joseph Newgarden, obviously not ideal. He had contact early with Alexander Rossi and Jack Harvey, lap 17. This essentially ended his day. I mean, to me, it looked like Rossi was racing him aggressively. I don't think it was dirty by any stretch. I think he was racing him aggressively. He did give him a little bit of a squeeze coming out of that turn, but Joseph had nowhere to go because Jack was coming up the inside. Jack was very racy this weekend, but we'll talk about that in a minute. And just made just the right contact with Jack's front wing, which cut down that tire and, couldn't get going again. So they had to put the car on the flatbed, take it to the garage. They performed the repairs and brought him back.
That was odd.
Which was a long stop. Yeah.
Yeah. They had two flat tires in the back, and that's why they had to go back to the garage in order to, get those fixed and be able to put them back in the car. And they couldn't put them on the hook with him in the car. That's why he had to get out. So typically you don't see that in any car. They're going to fire that thing up. You're going to drive it around and then get it fixed and move on out.
Right. He was, I think, about 15 laps down at that point when he rejoined the race. But how did you see the coming together with Rossi and Jack? Was that just a racing incident?
Yeah, I think it's just racing incident, right? Just everybody trying for the same spot on the track, and you're going to bump each other around. And but no, I didn't see anything. There's no penalties handed out for that one, right? It was just a racing incident. You pick up where you left off and keep on moving. It seems like they talk about this quite a bit with Newgarden because he's got 2 wins so far on different types of tracks. That this $1 million that he's trying to win is kind of elusive, right? It's one of those things where he had a chance last week or a few weeks ago. He had a chance again this week, and I don't know if that's actually going to come to fruition or not.
I hope it does. I think that'd be really cool. He does have the line down though, very, very patented, very well rehearsed. The line that says, "Oh, I don't even think about it until you guys bring it up to me."
Yeah, totally. But he's got a few more shots at it, right? There's still some more road courses
thinking about it.
Up.
That's something to go for, right? That's something to achieve, right? Hang your head on.
Yeah, totally. So maybe he'll get there, but he's got a few more shots for sure.
Yeah, I hope he does. 4th place, Marcus Ericsson. Do you know how many stops the 4th place car of Marcus Ericsson required on Saturday?
I did not until I read the notes. It's a lot. It's like he could have run the Indy 500 with that many stops.
6 stops, the most among the top 5, and tied for most among the top 10. Lundgaard also had 6 stops. One of those stops, by the way, which I did not see on the broadcast, was for a full change of the rear wing. I cannot, for the life of me, remember the last time we saw a full rear wing change.
Yeah, it's been a long time for sure.
Right. It almost feels to me like Ericsson needs to have some sort of pre-disaster before he has a great finish, right? Like he had the launch in Nashville. And then won that race. Yep. He had a rear wing change and 6 stops at the Grand Prix this past weekend and finished 4th.
I know.
Unheard of.
Yeah, I thought he was going to have a miserable day. And then next thing you know, he's back up there, way up there.
Yeah.
4th spot is a great finish for him. He leads the Chip Ganassi racing team.
Yes, he does.
The only driver that had more pit stops than him was his teammate, Alex Palou.
Yeah, but
it was 7.
Did he have a bad? Yeah, he had a bad, really bad race. 10th place goes to Scott Dixon. I think we have to start with a very aggravated Scott Dixon from qualifying on Friday. He started 21st. Did you
Mhm.
see his interview on Peacock?
I did see it.
He
Yeah,
was not
he
a
wasn't
happy
too
camper.
happy.
Yeah.
Not at all.
He was talking about, they keep making big changes and throwing things at it, and they really shouldn't be doing that. Too many big swings at the car.
Which is
Somehow though,
interesting.
Tim,
They have
yeah,
enough cars that you would think you would have the setup sorted down unless you're running different setups for these drivers.
I'm sure there's some nuances to the changes between the drivers, but at the end of the day, which I think is what you're saying, this is the same car we've had for 45 years, right? It's almost the same tire that we've had. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, they've had the aero screen now for several seasons, and that really hasn't hindered Scott Dixon's performance. So how it is that they're so far off this season, I really don't understand it. I really don't understand it.
I don't either, and I think it comes down to how competitive the series is. Like you cannot miss a mark. If you miss a mark, you are at the back of the field, and that's what happened with Dixon at the start, right? 21st is way back for him. Doesn't get out of Q1, which is unheard of. I don't even know if he's gotten out of Q1 this whole season yet.
Right.
Maybe one time. But he's does a great drive.
Yeah.
10th place spot, top 10.
Yeah. Yeah. Normally that's, I mean,
yeah.
He's
normally
very,
he's
yeah,
higher up than that, but in these conditions, you got to take that after you
Smart.
qualified 21st.
And lucky he ran it out of fuel.
Oh my gosh.
Right?
I couldn't believe that.
Which is insult to injury given what he was saying about the team and the lack of preparation on Friday. They ran it out of fuel.
Yeah,
again,
you can't do that.
Never can't remember the last time I saw a rear wing change. Can't remember the last time I saw Scott Dixon, of all people, run out of fuel.
Yeah, the crew's running down the pit lane to pick him up and
crazy,
push him in.
He had to be just seething inside that helmet.
But given that, he still finishes 10th. Like,
yeah, I know, right? Yeah. 18th place for Alex Palou, spun early, had to be extracted from the grass. He spun early, kind of got out of the grass, right? Made it onto the track surface, probably was going for one of these spins, right? Stalled it, had to be picked up there. Just a uncharacteristic, chaotic kind of race for the series defending champion.
And this was the things that I thought would get him this year. This was the kind of stuff that I was like, he was just way too consistent last year, way too good. Everything seemed to go his way, that I was like, it's going to happen. You can't do that 2 years in a row. And for the first 4 or 5 races, whatever it's been, it all went his way again until this race. And it was kind of the first time you've seen him sort of stumble a little bit.
Yep.
Which is unfortunate. I'd like to see him do well. And he qualified second. He was almost the pole sitter.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just caught himself out a few times.
Yep. 22nd place, Jimmy Johnson. I'm going to get hate mail for this. How much longer can we say things, or he say things, right, on the interviews? I think we're improving. I think we're getting better every week. No, it's not. It's not coming around on the road courses. It's not coming around on the street courses. He had a good weekend at Texas. I was standing by somebody in the plaza there right behind the pagoda this weekend, prior to the race, when the weather was still nice. I heard a guy telling a couple of his buddies that, he expects Johnson to be in contention for a win at the 500. And that's really where he's going to shine. And this maybe
that's one of my things to watch for Indy.
Yeah, I know.
How does Jimmy Johnson do?
I'm just not there for that. I'm really not.
I'm curious though for how well he did at Texas.
Yeah. I think he'll be better at the 500, but contention, I don't think so.
I don't know. It's possible. Yeah, if they'll have good cars, right? It's just a matter of, can you put it in the right spot all day long in order to stay out of trouble? And can you be there at the end? And are you fast enough with the setup you put on that car?
And all the pit stops, right? No mistakes coming in.
6, 7, right? Yeah.
Yep. We had very capable drivers last year make mistakes entering the pits, Will Power being one of them, right? And I think these are some of the nuances that Jimmy Johnson just has not been able to experience or really understands what that's going to be like under green flag conditions at the biggest race in his, I want to say his biggest race in his career, but I'm an IndyCar guy.
Yeah.
So
talk about pace.
Contention,
he qualified last.
Yeah, I know.
He was the last qualifier of it.
Yep.
So
European style track, right? It requires a certain finesse. It requires a certain driving style. And he has not adapted to this road course driving an IndyCar. And can I say it's never going to come? I'm going to say that it doesn't look like it. He's in great equipment. He's in a great team. He's no shortage of mentors on the timing stand, right? And I'm talking about Kanan. I'm talking about Dario Franchitti, and it's just not coming for him, right? Yeah. I mean, and it's not necessarily his fault. The guy has 20 years of driving a 180-degree different vehicle. Yeah.
Exactly.
So, but I give him credit every day, every week for putting the helmet on and going out there and doing that, because you don't need it. He's not doing it for the money.
Yeah. No,
right? Not doing it for the money. Nope.
And I don't know what next year brings. Carvana's in trouble financially. So that's going to be an interesting situation come the end of the season here, and what really happens with Jimmy Johnson in the series.
If I were Alexander Rossi, I wouldn't sign that McLaren deal just yet.
Interesting. You're saying, hey, there might be an opportunity elsewhere.
Hey, if Carvana goes away, or if Jimmy decides that, he's had enough.
Well, Carvana's owner.
Or what if Scott Dixon decides he's had enough?
I've preached that he's.
I know you have.
He's on his way out, and he's going to be out sooner than people think, and they're going to be surprised. But he's going to take on a role like Dario did. Yep. So,
maybe. I don't see that as being his personality. I really don't.
I do. I think he's got a ton of wisdom there and a ton of input, and will be able to help. So I think he'll do something with that team. He's done a great job there. Brought him tons of championships and one Indy 500 win thus far, which people still talk about how that's been disappointing for Dixon, because he's had a lot of seconds and thirds, and has run really well at Indy. So I don't know, but yeah, I don't know about Jimmy. Well, let's see what happens the next couple weeks here.
5th place, Connor Daly. I just
shocked.
Crazy, right? I mean, last week I think we were talking about how Connor and the need for him to come to grips in this car, and he's got a great opportunity. It's his best opportunity. Full
note to all the other drivers
else, and it's like
note to all the other drivers in the series: if you're not doing well, just bring in a portable hot tub, put it in your paddock area.
That's right.
You're good to go.
That's right. A Coleman blow-up hot tub.
Is that what he?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, just a fantastic weekend for him. He needed it. Needed it. I'm happy for him. I think that's really great. When the race started, he did get shuffled back.
He did.
Maybe
I was nervous at that point. I was like, something's going to happen. But
yeah. But it seems strange, like that they were beholden to this save fuel strategy, which nobody else was on, because it was clear. It felt like to me that there was no saving fuel as far as the strategy goes for this race, that it was really just race to lap 43.
Yeah.
Because
especially
the
with
weather
Dixon,
was
don't
insane.
save any fuel. Just run it dry.
Yeah, run it dry. But that's where that goes. So it was really weird. And I think Connor actually called it out on the radio. Like, why are we saving fuel? Nobody else is.
Yeah.
Right. He said it nicer than Alexander Rossi said, because when Brian Barnhart asked Rossi to save fuel, he said, yeah, that's not possible. Blank that.
Yeah.
We're going for it. Yeah.
Yeah, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
And then he's like, and Rossi was like, I want rain tires. And Brian Barnhart and the crew said, okay, we'll put rain tires on it. And then he got caught out on that strategy too, because it never rained. So he had to go back to slicks. But yeah, but back to Connor, right? This is Connor's moment.
And you expect great things out of Connor for the 500, right?
I expect great things out of that team. So he's part of that team, him, Ed, and as well as Renus. I think they should be pretty fast cars going around that track come tomorrow.
Yeah, I agree. 23rd place though, Renus VK. He just had a bad weekend though. He really did.
Yeah.
He had a bad weekend. Started 15th, finished 23rd. Contact with DeFrancesco. That was ugly contact too. I mean, DeFrancesco just T-boned him, hit him inside. A lot of damage on the side of that car.
Yeah.
I'm kind of surprised that they
That's
even
not
made attempts.
that's not Devlin's
fixing that
fault,
car.
right?
No, absolutely not. No, nowhere to go. He couldn't do anything
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah.
So
I thought he was retiring.
I don't know why they kept him out there.
I don't know either.
Yeah, I mean,
That car was that
injury.
That tray was
yeah
demolished. That under tray was a mess.
Yeah, just duck it.
And it was surprising to me that Devlin had no damage at all. He just like hit him straight on.
Yeah,
the nose, the wings, everything stayed intact and kept driving. And there's Renus with a huge hole in the side of his car.
Broken floor, broken arrow, broken pod. I mean, just broken. And let's just bust out the duct tape, right? Let's duck it.
The 200-mile-an-hour tape.
Yeah, no
put
way.
it on there and get her out.
Right.
I guess you do it for the sponsors. Since it's F1, that car's parked immediately. You don't.
Oh yeah.
You're done. You're out of there. But not an Indy car. Put it back out there. Run that sucker around.
As an aside, though, I couldn't tell who was who yesterday. You know, when I was out there on that track, I did these notes yesterday. I couldn't tell who was who on Saturday. You know, TV makes it a little bit better, but between Renus's orange car and Grosjean's orange car, I couldn't tell who was who.
It was very tough. Somebody had some red on it that maybe kind of made it stand out a little bit. I think they did, but yeah, they were way too close in liveries.
Yeah, I thought that Jack Harvey was racing Renus at some point. It was Grosjean. Grosjean. Yeah. I couldn't tell the cars, and I really couldn't. I couldn't see it. TV did a little bit better, but not a lot. I mean, those cars were pretty close with that.
But you're saying being on site, you couldn't tell who was who.
No, going by me, forget it.
Yeah.
And if it were the 500, because you figure going by me, you figure where I was at, maybe 120, you know, before they were full song at the end of that backstretch.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell who it was.
Yeah. They ended
if it was in the 500,
180.
You're not going to see them, right? 220, 230.
No, right. You're like, whose car's that? Yeah, totally.
No idea. Yeah. You can't see the numbers either. White number on a white and orange car. You really can't see that number either.
No,
you know, you really couldn't tell.
I remember back in the day, they used to do the mirrors, right? You'd have like, because they had the same cars, and the rollover used to be like a different neon color, so the team could tell the cars apart and help the fans out a little bit. So
what's funny,
they'd have the orange neon, or they'd have the yellow neon, depending on what car it was.
You and I are Penske fans from back then.
Mm-hmm.
So you had a white roll hoop, a black roll hoop, and a red roll hoop.
Yeah. I was a Newman Haas fan, and they had the orange, and they had the yellow to signify the two cars.
Yep. Sixth place, Felix Rosenquist. I think he needed this weekend, right? I think he needed this. A lot of talk, a lot of chatter, right? His seat's been warm for 2 seasons now. He was strong early on. He led 4 laps. He did unfortunately have it coming together with his teammate and Takuma Sato. Still, he got away with it. He actually got the worst of it when he came together with O'Ward in that situation. And again, I don't think that was aggressive driving or anything dumb. It was just Pato spun and there was nowhere for Felix to go. And by the time, Pato came back around, that was just, they came together. So
yeah, totally.
Yep. Last person you want to come together with is your teammate. But
most
I think in that case, when you're running that close to each other, I don't think there's much.
Yeah, and a wet restart, and your teammate goes up the inside to get around Herta, and he just, I think it's a little too aggressive on that situation, but
on the part of O'Ward.
Yeah, exactly, on the part of O'Ward.
Yep.
But like you said, Rosenquist had nowhere to go and just hit him, and then his whole wing fell off. So I don't know what the difference was between that and Dublin.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. But I think it was good for confidence. I think both for his side of the garage as well as Felix. He was hanging with Herta and O'Ward in the beginning. They weren't getting away from him necessarily. He wasn't necessarily gaining on him either. But he was hanging in there. I think he also had an advantage that the 6 cars behind him were all battling for position, or, if it were Formula One, it would have been like a DRS train, right?
Mm-hmm.
Of course, this being IndyCar, there's no DRS, but nonetheless, there was a train of cars behind him that were just racing each other. So they weren't getting to Felix, and Felix was just trailing first and second place with his teammate in Herta. So, 19th place for O'Ward. Not a great finish. He had a great race going in. He obviously had a very strong car. They both had very strong cars, but he had a very strong car. Had the run in. He had a penalty for service during a closed pit. So that's a double whammy on that one. He was bit by the changing conditions.
He was there. It was just, it fell apart at the end.
Yeah, totally. Which is interesting because he had an exchange with his strategist, who's also the team president, actually. But he had a exchange with the team or his strategist on that said, if I stop now, or if you stop now, you'll rejoin in 20th, which is kind of a Formula One sort of concept, right? Where they talk about if you pit now, you're going to rejoin in 5th or whatever else it is. But they told him if you pit now, you're going to rejoin in 20th. Well, he went right. He stayed out on reds. He dropped right to 19th, and that's where he finished. So good thing he didn't stop, because he would have lost that one spot.
One spot difference.
Worked out. JPM, right? Juan Pablo Montoya, 24th place. I expect
he was on his way to a great finish.
Yes.
And I was very excited about JPM being up there. And then I don't know what happened.
Yeah. Well, he just lost it, I think, in the rain. They never really came back to it.
No.
The car had a lot of damage on it. Just had a lot of damage on that car, front and back. A lot of damage there. Did not get a chance to check this out, but I'm told that Juan Pablo and his son, who were driving to the Mid-Ohio IMSA race, were posting some delicious posts on Instagram, father and son, while son was driving.
Oh.
I think that would have been fun.
I missed all that, but they were headed over to Mid-Ohio to do the IMSA
race.
They
raced. They both ran.
Yeah. Wow. Good for them.
7th place for Takuma Sato, and he had it coming together with a couple of guys. He was involved in a few skirmishes out there over the week.
He was up there all day. Like he got his way up there.
He did.
Which was interesting to see, because he didn't start way up there, to my understanding, but all of a sudden he was in the picture. He must have done one of those early pit stops and got up there and went to slicks sooner than anybody else.
Yeah, he stopped at the same time that Herta did.
Yeah.
Just without the fanfare, right? He stopped the same time Herta did. He started in 13th place and finished 7th. And he stopped early. So he took
not a bad starting spot, just out of the fast 12, right? To get in those groups there. So yeah, it was good to see him up there. But again, he ball banging a little.
Yep. 12th place for David Malukas. Best finish of the season for Malukas. Rain tends to be an equalizer. Overall, I'm happy for this team. I think this team's underperformed where I certainly would have expected them to be. They are Dale Coyne Racing, and they're not a bad team. I think they've always proven themselves in different spots where they overachieve, so to speak. And Malukas was my pick for Rookie of the Year solely because he was in the Coyne car versus Kirkwood, who's in the Foy car. And I felt that Coyne had a better handle on these cars and better handle on the dampener package, and just overall better engineering is really what I expected. But not so far this season, but this was a good finish for Dale Coyne Racing.
Yeah, I agree.
And our new favorite guy, 8th place, Calum Ilott. Boom, 8th place. Somehow
he could have done better.
Yes. Somehow this team is overachieving. Their perceived
totally
stats.
Overachieving.
Yes.
I'm so really excited for them. It was good to see the green and white car up there. It was pretty much most of the day.
Yes.
Which I was surprised to see from sitting back and watching the race, but good for them. They figured it out and
started 7th. That's a great position for them.
He looked really good in qualifying.
Yeah.
And they knocked a lot of people out of qualifying that people expected to be in the qualifying groups. And so you had a few rookies that were able to do that. Him and Lundgaard and a few others did the same thing. So that was, I don't know. I can't wait to see what they do at Indy, right? But they are overachieving, to your point, and hopefully this means more sponsorship for that team and hopefully a second car at some point, right? That's
maybe.
always the goal.
Yeah. Ray Hall, Letterman, Lanigan. We always have a lot of dialogue here, and it's mainly my problem, my fault. First, so we'll talk about the team. I feel like this weekend was a step in the right direction. I feel like this is what we've been waiting to see from this team. Lundgaard started 8th, Jack started 9th, and Graham started 12th. That's not too shabby, and that's definitely a positive step forward. Definitely
the only
a positive
time they've done
step,
it this season.
Yeah, to the trend, because the trend is usually mid-teens and below for this team. So really, really a good start, right? So this is the step in the right direction.
And you sort of anticipated this.
I did.
And I thought you were crazy.
Yeah, I know. And again, Lundgaard,
and you did this based. So you did this based
year.
on Lundgaard's results last year here at Indianapolis.
Yes.
On the road course. And you're like, they're going to carry that over. And I'm like, maybe not, potentially not. Because you were potentially thinking of putting Jack as the winner of this race in your picks. And that's kind of how we got on the dialogue on the last show.
Right.
And then when I started watching qualifying, I was like, maybe Dan knows something about this that I don't know. Because like you said, they qualified better than they have all year, 8th, 9th, and 12th.
Yep.
That's
I mean,
good.
Yeah, Lundgaard finished 9th. I think, he knocked everyone's socks off last year. So to me, this is not a surprise on this track. Even in the wet, he comes from a European racing background. And so, that's nothing new for them. And this is a European style track. So no surprise to me here. 13th place for Jack Harvey. He had a rough start to the season, but Barber, and then now on the Indy Road Course, more in line with expectations, I believe. Results aren't there perfectly, but they're on their way. He had some wing damage from the contact with Newgarden. Didn't necessitate a change, but it might have put him a little bit behind with that. And he did have penalty for contact in pit lane, which I did not see, and they did not talk about on the broadcast at all. And was required to start from the back. Otherwise, very solid, and really might have been a little bit better than that 13th place had he not had the wing damage and the penalty for contact.
Yeah,
he was competitive.
No, he looked good there for a while. He was up there. Yeah, he was very competitive.
Yeah.
Yep.
That car, on the other hand, you see that perfectly from the stands.
Oh, the black and red.
Yep.
No question on who's driving that car, and Hy-Vee looking good out there.
Yep. And I'll still
That's
say
your favorite livery, isn't it? Wasn't the question asked?
It's the McLarens. Yeah, the arrows.
Oh, I mean, of the 3 different
the black
liveries for Hy-Vee, I think that was your favorite one. That's what I was talking about.
Yep, for sure. But yeah, he was competitive. He was mixing it up. Grosjean and Rossi had great passes on them. I mean, he drove a really smart race. Ray Hall penalized for avoidable contact in the rain. I was that avoidable? Good luck. Let's put Max out there and Ari Leindeck out there and see if you can avoid it, guys. But I don't think that was necessarily avoidable contact. It's just crazy conditions. I don't think you could necessarily do that.
It is crazy conditions.
Yeah.
He's the last guy on the lead lap.
Graham.
No one else behind him was on the lead lap. Everybody else was a lap down. So I don't know if that's a moral victory or not, but it is what it is.
It's not. The team moving in this direction, I think, is a moral victory.
It is, but where do they go from here? They go to obviously the oval here for the 500.
And I think they're going to be.
You expect them to be strong?
There. I do. I really do.
Then you go to street course. You come to Detroit,
and I don't expect them to do well there.
Yeah,
I really don't.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll see. Maybe the team's coming together. Maybe they're gelling. It surprises me that they're this good at Indianapolis Road Course, but when you were at not Road America, you were at Barber 2 weeks before, they're not as good. And I would say they're similar in conditions.
Undulation that you have at Barber that you don't have in Indianapolis
is the biggest thing that changes the whole setup of the car. Yeah, you're probably right on that one. But I just think road course versus road course. So yeah, that's probably it.
Yep.
Well, we'll see what happens.
Yep. 15th place, Tatiana Calderon. She even led her first lap in an IndyCar. Good for her. Right?
It is good for
as
her.
we've said before, rain is the great equalizer. So nice finish for this team. Really great finish for this team. She's going to turn over her car to Justin Wilson in that 33rd car effort, right? And she's going to turn her crew over to JR Hildebrand, who's going to compete in that car during the Indy 500 in that special ABC supply livery that we talked about last week. Kyle Kirkwood, 26th place, miserable day for Kirkwood. Mercifully, Graham hit him and damaged the gearbox, effectively ending his day. I say mercifully because I was beginning to think that Kyle's full name was Kirkwood Spins. Right? Which is crazy.
I saw him on the grass more than I did
more than I saw him on the track. And the best part is there is no his car number does not appear in the caution summary at all in the box score.
No, after all the times he was up.
Yes.
He was like the second one in the grass all the time. There was like someone else, and then there was Kyle. He was out there. He's like, "Hey, if you're gonna do it, I'm gonna go up there too."
Yeah. So thankfully, I mean, mercifully, his day was ended by.
I don't know why I'm laughing so hard at that, but that's what it seemed like.
Dalton Kellett, 27th, spun right in front of where I was sitting. He was aggressive on the curbs. I don't think any more aggressive than anybody else, but I think it was timing. I mean, he bounced it through there during that real gusty wind section, and I think that could have been affected his car through there on those curbs, and just spun. And of course, on wet grass, he wasn't going to catch that. It was there was nothing to stop him until he got to the tires, the tire barrier. We talked right before this started that I was surprised at the length of time it took to clean that up. Right?
Yeah,
it felt like a long yellow to me.
Yeah,
so
it sure did.
But
like quite a few. There were obviously quite a few yellows in the race. And
yeah, I want to ask you.
Some of them seem to go a little longer than you expect, but I think for a while there, they were trying to figure out the running order, which is why they kind of held some of that up. But
yeah,
I was like, why are we not green yet? What are we waiting for? Are we waiting for it to rain so we can just throw the red flag and bring them all in, or what's the scenario? But from what I heard and what I've seen since is that they were just trying to make sure they had the order right before they went green. So it took a little longer in some instances, but it was, they did a pretty good job overall.
Yeah. Insane conditions.
Insane. Like I to come up on top on that, like it's anybody's ball game. I'll call it a ball game, anybody's race when you have conditions like that. And you just try to stay on top of the weather. But when it's so unpredictable that it's raining in one spot and not in the other, and you're not sure whether you go to wets or dries, it makes for a long day. And I guess the strategists on the bench and the team managers trying to figure that out, along with getting input from the driver. And, it's you kind of follow what others are doing and try to do your own thing at the same time and see where you end up. And some of them just didn't play that right. They took different strategies that just didn't play out. So overall, it was entertaining. I think it was an entertaining race for those that were watching. It ended up coming down to a timed event, right? So they didn't do all the laps because of just how long it took with rains and with the wet and the rain and the yellows and things of that sort. So it did come down to a time race at the end. How did they do well at the speedway to let you guys know that it was, a timed event and no longer, going on the number of laps?
Maybe I had the IMS radio network on.
That's right.
In my AirPods that I was listening to there was quite a delay on that actually versus the on track, live event. More so than what was on in the car. Right. When I was listening to it on FM radio in the car, it was more in tune with the live than what the app was. And it was the same broadcast, but the app was just further behind, which I thought was interesting. But I know that they had some some PA system going, but I can hear it. for the I couldn't hear it. I wasn't listening for it. Finishing up here. So projected polls, we talked about, actually I picked Scott McLaughlin. I did have my honorable mentions to Ray Hall, Letterman, Lanigan. Will Power took the poll. And I want to say that, and as you said, right, my RLL predictions of honorable mention here weren't that far off.
No,
they had a
I
pretty
agree
good,
with you.
Comparatively speaking. You took Joseph Newgarden, again, Power, but we both picked the wrong Penske teammate.
We did. We totally did. But yeah, it's all right. No big deal on that. It's, Power. It was good to see that. But you had Power winning it
as well. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, we were off on that one. That was, Herta going to, Herta in a Honda and Power in the Chevy. But, he wasn't a bad finish, right? Third place for Will Power. So still
as you
there,
mentioned, Rain is great equalizer when
Yep.
it comes to horsepower.
Yeah. And you took a Ward, which in the early stages of this race really didn't look bad.
No.
Right.
I thought I might have had that one wrapped up, but didn't work out that way because he pulled out to a pretty good lead there at the beginning.
He did.
In the first few laps, and then obviously after the fifth lap where Herta came in and the others had to come in, that's where Herta took control, and then Pato had his issues later on in the race.
Yep. Our stories that we were watching, Grosjean versus Rahal, that wasn't to be. Instead, it was Jack with his elbows out against Grosjean. Rossi leaving, does that relieve some pressure? Maybe. I think, he was definitely more aggressive on the radio, definitely more aggressive with the strategy that he was looking for. Whether or not it worked out, I don't know. I don't know that any of that's going to work at the 500, but we'll see how that shakes out. Can Rinus VK make it 2 in a row? Nope. He had a really bad weekend. He had a really
after a great weekend 2 weeks before.
Oh yeah. And he's got to shake this thing off and be ready for the 500 because Ed Carpenter Racing is always good at the 500. So, and I was on site and I loved it. Loved every minute of it. So got a few stories. I'll let you turn that over, but I want to just kind of make the listeners aware of a couple of things here. We have a packed schedule in terms of our podcast here. We have our first ever live show on Friday with a IndyCar superfan, where we're going to talk about who's the best driver at the 500 based on certain criteria. So the criteria being either poles, laps led, number of wins, average finish. And it's really an interesting perspective depending on what you weight the most in terms of that category. And I think you'll be surprised to see who Brian has on the top of his list. It's not the person I have on the top of my list. I'm not sure if it's the person Tim has, but we haven't talked about it yet. And then
that's
also
live on Friday.
That's live on Friday. So that's going to be a live show on our YouTube channel. So we'll make sure that we get the link out there on our Twitter. So be on the lookout for that. 8 p.m. Eastern time on Friday, May 20th.
Yeah, I better put that on my calendar.
Yeah. So, and we'll be guests on a podcast called Dudes in Hyperspace, where Tim and I will get a chance to talk about Indy cars and Indy 500. So we're looking forward to doing that. I don't know when that is going to hit.
Actually air, right?
Right. But we'll be recording with the guys, with the Dudes in Hyperspace later this week, which will be a lot of fun.
Yeah, on Thursday.
Yes.
Yeah. That's exciting.
That is exciting.
So I heard you right. We got invited to another podcast to talk about IndyCar.
Yeah, that'll be really fun. I'm
that will be fun.
It. We're thrilled to do it.
What's that? Ian and his group?
Yeah.
Okay.
And they're been following us on Twitter and things like that too. So that's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's good.
So, hey, you got a lot talking about on the track too, Timmy.
I do have a few things to talk about because tomorrow, which is Tuesday, May 17th, Indy 500 practice starts. So that's exciting to see. And I reviewed the schedule a little bit. It looks like they're running every day up until qualifying this weekend. And I think there are a few stories to watch, as there always are when it comes to Indy 500. The first is added boost. And what does that do to the power plants, right? Does Chevy keep their edge on Honda? does Honda bounce to the front as in the past, right? So do they go up front as they did this past weekend at the Grand Prix? Would you be surprised to see a Honda driver on the pole for Indy 500, Dan?
I would.
You would
Yeah.
at this point?
Yep.
And you look at it, the last three poles, though, Dixon, Honda, Andretti, Honda. When I say Andretti, that's Marco. And then you have Pagano, who was driving a Chevy at that time.
Mhm.
So that's the last three pole winners. And then I wonder what the speed, right? So the speed's pretty, I was looking at some old stuff, but the speed was 231.6 mile an hour was the pole speed for Dixon last year. That is bloody fast.
Mhm.
That is
And that was
faster than
last year?
that was last year.
Wow.
A 231.6 was the average, which was up about 6.6 miles an hour from when Marco did it the year before that. The other thing is they got the new qualifying format. So how does that play out? Is it too much? Seems like there's a lot of different sessions to actually win the pole, but they are
Yeah.
paying points for positions 1 through 12. So the pole sitter will get 12 points, and then so on and so forth, all the way down to 12th place that gets 1 point. So that's some extra motivation for teams that are trying to, win this championship. Plus, there's $100,000 bonus for the pole at Indy, which I think it's been that for a long time. So the question is, do you risk it all for the points and the $100,000 as well as the prestige of being a pole winner? I think you do.
I think you do. I think you hang it out and you go for it. I think it sets a tone, so to speak. Right? You're
Yep.
kind of throwing down the gauntlet. I'm fast. I've been fast over several sessions, and I'm ready to lead this thing, and I'm going to take it home. I think you definitely hang it all out there.
Yeah. And then warm-up lane issues, is that fixed? Before we came on air, I saw Nathan Brown tweeted about that and what all the work they've been doing. So maybe it's fixed. Like I said, I'm assuming it will be, but only time will tell. So we'll see what happens on that.
That's what I was looking for. There was I had tweeted Nathan Brown to ask him if they used that part of the warm-up lane during the Grand Prix. I would suspect they did, but I can't say that for sure.
Yeah, I don't know if they actually did. I think they crossed it, but I don't think they actually ran on it. I think they just went across it to get to that infield section a little bit.
I think
by
it was
turn
the
4
pit
and then
in.
came back out of it.
No, I think it was pit in. Is where that was part of that pit in section. I can't say for sure. Like I said,
I'm going to disagree, but I don't know.
I'll take your word for it.
I think the other thing with Indy is there's coverage on
Which is
Peacock.
awesome.
It's so great.
Yeah, which is awesome.
So I'd say if you don't have Peacock, get Peacock because it's going to be on starting, like I said, tomorrow all the way through to qualifying.
Mhm.
So that'll be good to see. Can Penske continue their 2022 reign over the series? I think they've sort of dominated up into these last two races. Will they continue to fade as they've done in the last two? Will they be super hard to beat when it comes to the Chevy power plant they have? That's going to be interesting to watch. I think it's a story to kind of look at this whole week leading up to qualifying and seeing what happens. I have a hunch they're going to be up front pretty much this whole month of May, but time will tell. Dan, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think they'll be strong. Who really, I think, wants this win, and they all want to win in Indy, right? But I think who really wants this win is Joseph Newgarden.
Mm-hmm.
And he needs it. He doesn't have it. His teammates, McLaughlin doesn't. Power does. Pagano did last year, but things have to go very, very right. I think it'll definitely be a Chevy. Who? I'm not sure.
Yep. And can Shank build upon last year's win? That's going to be another story coming in the next 2 weeks.
Based on
Carpenter
how
Racing,
Simon looks right now.
Yep.
I was dismissing Shank of really repeating here with any degree of certainty. Based on how Simon's running, don't be surprised.
Yeah. And just a few others here. Ed Carpenter Racing, I think they're going to be really strong.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they got the right power plant. Can they take pole? Ed's taken it quite a few times. Is anybody else on that team going to step up and do that? Potentially, right? It's anybody's game. Ganassi won the pole last year, as I mentioned, with Dixon, can they be triumphant again and get the pole? Who knows? The Andretti team, will they have the speed to compete for pole like they did 2 years ago with Marco? That's going to be another story to watch. Arrow, I'm just curious. Arrow McLaren, how well they come out of the box for Indy.
Don't overthink it.
And then any surprises?
Yep. Don't overthink it. Right?
Yeah, that's just what it comes down to with Arrow.
Take what you got right in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
yeah,
the
and then the surprises would be, yeah. And then the surprises would be Juncos. Well, you know, can they do something? Foyt, can that team do anything? And then where does Jimmy Johnson end up?
I wouldn't put Jimmy Johnson in the surprise category. I'd put it in the shock and awe category.
Well, after Texas, you never know. I lay it all out there.
Yep. I hope I'm wrong.
That's my stories to watch for Indy that starts tomorrow.
The only thing is, I wanted to go to qualifying this year, of course. Would have loved to have been there, but if the day job gets in the way, which I'm perfectly fine with doing, I'll have a good weekend. But I'm out driving back from Chicago Sunday afternoon, so I'll get a chance to listen to the IMS radio network and hear what's going on there. So that'll be good to listen to in the car. That'll be good to listen to in the car. But
I'm looking forward to it. It's gonna be a good week.
Yep. Totally agree. Ready to go. It's almost here. That's all I got.
That's a wrap.
That is a wrap. So thanks for joining
us. A long
us.
one.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us as always, episode 30. Got a busy month here ahead of us. We got a couple of interesting new podcasts that we're, like I said, we'll be a guest on one, and we've got a live run on one later this week, and it'll be fun. Looking forward to it. Always good to talk IndyCar with other fans as well. So be sure to tune in and subscribe. Leave us a rewiew on your Apple Podcast. Watch us on YouTube. However you want to consume this show, just consume this show. So thanks everybody for listening, and we'll catch you next week.
Take care.